Someone wrote in and asked, what are your specialties as a teacher? I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that I attempt to take the mist out of mysticism. All around the world, we find people that have had deep experiences of meditation, and perhaps gone beyond deep experiences of meditation to experiences of no self or enlightenment. And scholars of comparative religion who study such things say that they're studying comparative mysticism. I think a more contemporary term would be contemplative studies, but it pretty much boils down to the same thing. Mysticism sometimes refers to what I call the realms of power. That's sort of like the New Agey kind of stuff. That might be called mysticism with a small m. But mysticism with a capital M, as is used by trained scholars of world religion, has a very different meaning. It means the path into deep states, and then the path beyond deep states to experiences of, quote, enlightenment. If you look at the standard works on mysticism, most of the older ones, unfortunately, written by people that were not themselves mystics, which is a little bit like sex manuals written by perpetual virgins, or books on the nature of music written by people that are tone deaf or maybe deaf. But if you look at some of the older books on mysticism, the first thing that always appears is, this can't be described in words, okay? That's almost the defining feature of mystical experience. Now, it is quite true within the core of mystical experience, the experience of direct contact with the source. There most assuredly are no words. No words in your head, no words coming out of your mouth, because there's no head, there's no body, there's no time, there's no space. So certainly no words, that is true. But can everything surrounding that be precisely put into words? I think so, actually. That goes against a lot of established doctrine. But I think we can do this. We meaning the human species, with enough time. So I would refer to that as taking the mist out of mysticism. Or another way to put it is developing a vocabulary around these really deep spiritual practices that has the same precision and rigor as the vocabulary that has developed within science and mathematics. Now, it took a long time and centuries of contention and confusion for science to develop the precise vocabulary it now has. This was not a quick thing and not an easy thing. We can speak about the natural world in a very powerful and precise way now, which we couldn't, say, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and so forth. So I think something like that can occur with regards to the mystical or contemplative experiences that are universal to humans around the world. So I call that taking the mist out of mysticism, and that's sort of one of the things that I view as my specialty. Another thing that I view as a specialty is that the way that I work with people is interactive. In other words, my system is designed to be taught and deepened and sharpened by real-time interaction with a coach. So if you come to a residential retreat with me, you will have at least one or two times where you'll have 90 minutes where it's just you and me. Well, not exactly just you. It's effectively just you and me. That's a little complicated to explain how I do that, but I multi-process several people working on telephones, but each one is privately working with me. I give you a technique, you get set up, I go work with somebody else, 5-10 minutes later I come back, okay, when you did that technique, this, or this may have happened, tell me which one happened. Depending on what you tell me, we're going to either keep to the same guidance, slightly modify it, give you some new information, give you a choice of options, suggest that you do this, etc., etc. It's an algorithm that loops and branches. Then I get you optimized. You're optimized now for the next 5 or 10 minutes. I'm off processing somebody else, doing the same thing for them. They don't hear what you're going through because you're all on separate telephone lines. And then I come back to you, okay, what happened? Now, if you call me up at home, if you're someone that comes to my retreats, I actually give you my own home telephone number, and you can call me at home. Then you have one-on-one interactive session with me. Unlike traditional systems that it's sort of like, okay, here's the cushion, here's the technique, now go off and do it. You know, come back in a few hours, come back in a few days, come back in, you know, whatever, and we'll see what's happening. I do micro interactive coaching, like having a personal coach next to you while you're using pieces of exercise equipment. My metaphor is that my 5 ways are exercise stations, and if you have someone from the staff of the YMCA is next to you while you're using the Nautilus equipment, you're going to have an optimal experience of using it. So another specialty of mine is this interactive, personal coaching way of teaching the practice. Another thing that may be unique, I don't know if it is unique, but it may be unique to my approach, is that I didn't develop my approach alone. I developed my approach through taking feedback from students and taking suggestions from students. Maybe 50% of what's innovative in what I teach, I didn't discover. A student discovered. Sometimes a student with not a whole lot of experience, but in interacting with them, they had sort of seen something that was very significant. So for 3 decades, I've been intensely collaborating with my students, developing the 5-way system. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm alone and I'm going to figure out how to do this. So it's actually been a sort of distributed collaborative endeavor. And that may be, that certainly is unusual in the history of these things. I don't know if it's entirely unique, but it's probably another distinctive feature of what I do.